Hi and welcome to another VanTech Tuesday, and this is a bit weird because I've already done this once today. I did a live stream this morning and for some reason YouTube system has lost my live stream. It's gone, never to be found again. So I'm really sorry if you did ask questions this morning, but that's gone. For you guys that obviously weren't able to watch it this morning, I'm going to try and recap the majority of those questions and just kind of go through it now. So to reiterate the same sort of topics we were doing this morning, I first of all wanted to start off by saying, please, if you are not subscribed, please do subscribe. Only 50% of people who watch my channel are subscribed. So if you do like watching my videos, please do hit that subscribe button, and yeah, it just helps the channel really. So the main topics of conversation this morning were probably predominantly around solar panels and how much solar panel do I need for this, how much solar panel do I need for that. And I'm trying to remember these off the top of my head. One was that they want to keep, somebody wanted to keep their van topped up whilst it was parked up on the driveway, and they've got a 110 amp battery. What solar panel would work for that? And it's just a case of, you know, a medium size generic solar panel was probably okay for just keeping a battery topped up. Something like a 50 watt, 100 watt is perfectly okay. You just want a little trickle charge if you're not going to be using it, and that'll look after it. It's mainly the charge controller that needs to be pretty good, so MPPT charge controller, and that would allow the battery to be topped up by a little bit of solar charge, so that's pretty good for that one. Another one was somebody asking how much power they would need for or what size MPPT controller for a 200 watt solar panel. And this again is an easy one. Basically the way you work out your solar needs and electricity needs and things like that, it's a division or a multiplication system called Ohm's law. So in this circumstance you would divide the watts by the volts, and that would give you the amps. So off the top of my head, I think it was around about 20 amps was the required. But again, if you're going to go for that, you're always going to probably add more solar panel. So I would say probably go for a 30 amp or a 25 amp MPPT controller, and that would give you enough that you can add to it at a later stage with more solar. Because I mean, you know, who doesn't need more solar? Another question that came in, if I remember rightly, was about batteries that someone had. I think it was two 220 amp hour batteries and a 150 watt solar panel. And I was basically saying, realistically, you want to flip that around. What you want is to always have a battery that's always charged. And the easiest way to do that is by a relatively smallish battery, like a 100 amp hour battery or maybe 130 amp hour battery, and have enough solar that no matter what the weather, it will always keep that battery charged. For example, my rule of thumb is double the solar watts to the amp hour rating of a battery. For example, if you do get a 130 amp hour battery, then, you know, stands to reason that you want at least 260 watts of solar on your roof. I'd even go more than that. I'd even go to sort of like 300 or there around. My rule of thumb really is just get as much solar as you can possibly get, really. And that would always keep enough power, even on a rainy day or an overcast day in the winter or whatever, to keep a few amps coming in, that it's always going to keep that battery kind of charged. And that goes on to another topic that I remember being asked now, and it was about battery to battery chargers. And somebody said that they've got a 160 amp rated alternator, and what's the biggest B2B that you can buy for that. And I suggested that it was a 60 amp Sterling. Apparently there is another company, Ash Pollard's got a 70 amp battery to battery charger out there, and that seems to be working great for him. There are others, but then that's going on to 24 volt if you want to stick to 12 volt, which you kind of really do, really, for simplicity. I would say the Sterling B2B at 60 amps is more than enough power, really, so definitely keep with that. And a few more questions came in as well about using a B2B charger to top up the vehicle battery. And I just wanted to clarify, a battery to battery charger is taking from your vehicle battery some power, using the electronics wizardry of the B2B to then provide a nice big charge for your leisure battery. Therefore, if your engine's running, your alternator is providing the power and charge to your vehicle battery. So your B2B is not ever for charging your vehicle battery or anything like that. The B2B is simply about charging your leisure battery from your vehicle battery. So someone mentioned about cable sizes for B2B and cable sizes for generally wiring batteries together. I would say 35mm on average is going to be fine for wiring batteries together. 35mm is going to be good for wiring a solar controller or a B2B charger to your batteries as well. That's going to be great. Always make sure your solar controller and B2B is as close to your leisure battery as possible, because they generate the power within them, and you want to get that power as fast as you possibly can to the leisure batteries. Now for a B2B, obviously you take your feed from your vehicle battery. So you want to make sure that if it's a short run, again 35mm cable is okay. If it's a long run, 50mm cable is going to be best for that one, because that provides a really thick cable that will give you the maximum amount of power that can go down that cable with as little loss, voltage loss as possible, because it's nice and thick. And like I say, then 35mm cables more than enough usually to join your batteries together and to then provide charge circuits and that. It is important, and someone said, can you do a specific video on cable sizes? Because it really is important, but there are tons of videos out there. Just look for it and people will tell you all about it. It's specific in a way that you always need to know how much power you're going to put down a cable before you put a cable there. Now I can tell you 50mm cable is brilliant because it'll take tons of power, but say for example you don't want to put 50mm cable and you want to put the shortest, smallest cable you possibly can, then you need to work out how much power you're going to draw down that cable. And it's the same as if it was a USB socket cable or a light socket cable or an inverter cable. You always need to know how many amps you're going to draw through that cable, and then make sure that the cable can handle it with a little leeway, and that the fuse you put on in that cable run, because there should always be a fuse, whether it's from the battery to the B2B or whether it's from your solar controller to the battery, whatever, it should always be fused. What I mean by that is not fused as in connected, but the cable should have a fuse within it, and the fuse should always be rated to the charge or the current that you're putting down that cable. For example, if it's a 30 amp battery to battery charger, then you need to make sure that that fuse that you put in the line of the cable that's going in line, you need to make sure it's a 30 amp fuse. The cable can take more than 30 amps, that's fine, but if there's ever a problem with the fuse, it's only going to take up to 30 amps and then it'll cut off. I was also asked about how do I clean my solar panels. I clean them by just having a bit of water on one of those telescopic kind of like, you know, sponge with a squeegee on the other side, and I clean the roof down with that kind of stuff as well. You've seen me talk about that in other videos, probably about every 3 weeks I do that. I was asked questions about gas systems, which do I recommend? We've had a gasset tank system and now we've got a gas low system. They're both equally as convenient. They've got a connector on the outside of the van that you pull up to the fuel station, you connect the LPG, you fill up as you would normally. The gauges on them are a gauge, they're not accurate, so that's one thing to bear in mind. But they've both been quite good systems, both the gasset system and the gas low system. I think DAS uses something called the safe fill system, which uses some transparent or semi-transparent bottles, so you can see the measure of the liquid petroleum gas inside the bottle, which is obviously better than a gauge on the outside, which, yeah, they're not that great. As for underslung or internal gas tanks, I've had both now. Neither's really any better than the other one. The only thing I'd say is that the underslung tank caught on more things than I would have liked it to do. There was less ground clearance for that, therefore I was more likely to hit something with an underslung tank. So my personal preference is that you would keep that gas tank out of the way, whether you use one that fits in the wheel well or the wheel carrier or something like that. That seems to be a bit better, but if not, then put the gas bottles in a locker inside the van would be, my recommendation on that one. Another question was about batteries. Should you have one battery or multiple batteries? And if they're multiple, should they all be the same manufacturer date and the same size? In my personal kind of setup, I've always gone for the redundancy side or resiliency side by having two batteries, and they've always been identical batteries, so that should one battery be older or one be smaller, there's not this imbalance in the battery system. So I've always made sure that when I order my batteries, I tell the person who I'm ordering it from that I want two batteries exactly the same from the same batch, because I'm going to connect them together to be a battery bank. And that's something I'd recommend doing as well. Like I say, I did get an awful lot. I think there was 450 people or more on the live chat this morning. So I am really sorry that your questions and my answers have been lost. I've tried all day speaking with YouTube support and that kind of stuff, and there's just nothing that can be done apparently. My phone has tried to send the video, the correct version of the video, to YouTube so many times that it got corrupt. So when YouTube said to switch my phone off, start my phone up again and try the live stream upload again, it had gone off my phone. So that's how it got lost. So I'm really sorry about that one. I say it's a lesson learned, and I won't be doing a live stream for something that is quite important anyway. Again, for now, I'll stick to the normal videos. So you take care. I hope you're all okay, and I'll catch you on the next video. See you soon. Bye.